He was not born Geronimo. That name, spoken with fear in army camps, with reverence in desert whispers, would come later, a title forged in blood and legend. When the boy known as Goyaałé, he who yawns, was born in June of 1829, the earth of No Doyon Canyon bore witness. This was the land of the Bedonkohe band of the Chiricahua Apache, deep within what would one day be called New Mexico. Then, it was sovereign, unyielding Apache. His people lived as they had for generations, nomadic, spiritual, warriors trained by necessity, their lives entwined with the cycles of the land and the spirits they revered. From a young age, Goyaałé was taught to ride, to hunt, to read the signs in the sand and sky, and to respect the visions that visited men in their dreams. His father was a respected leader, and his mother was gentle, yet resolute. He was not yet the man who would become a symbol of defiance, but the earth already carried his weight lightly, as if it knew it would one day be cast into myth. In his youth, the world was still vast, untouched by the boots of soldiers or the lies of treaties. The Mexican government loomed like a distant storm, but the Apaches were used to such thunder. Raiding was not a crime, but a tradition, a means of survival, a right of manhood. Goyaałé became known for his bravery, his silence in the face of fearsome moments, and the sharpness of his mind. He took a wife from the Nednhai band, a woman named Alope, and with her, he built a family in the Apache way, fluid, mobile, grounded, not in walls, but in kinship and honor. In those years, he was not a legend, only a man, but it would not last. The year was 1821. He was away from the encampment, trading with a nearby Mexican town. When he returned, the world had split. A Mexican military detachment had found his camp and attacked. His mother, his wife, his children, all gone. Slaughtered without warning, without mercy. There was no war declaration, no provocation beyond existence. The canyon held the silence of their absence. Goyaałé gathered their remains, weeping over scorched bones in the scent of ruin. And in that moment, something ancient and dark rose in him. He went into the wilderness alone, carrying only a knife and the fire in his chest. For days he fasted, drank nothing, and spoke to no one. On the fourth night, a voice came to him, a vision. Whether it was Usan, the Apache creator deity, or the echo of grief hardened into steel, none could say. But when he emerged, the man known as Goyaałé had vanished. In his place stood Geronimo. His name was not Apache. It was a Spanish bastardization, likely uttered in panic by Mexican soldiers as they fled from his knife and rifle, calling upon St. Jerome to protect them. Geronimo, Geronimo. It stuck like thunder sticks in the chest. Over the years that followed, the name became a sigil of dread. Geronimo was vengeance. He rode with Cochise in Mangas Coloradas. He led raids not out of greed, but fury. Not for power, but balance. He struck military convoys, Mexican outposts, American settlers, and anyone who stepped foot into his ancestral lands without consent. And yet, even in vengeance, he adhered to a code. Civilians, when possible, were spared. Torture was abhorred. To the Apache, war was not cruelty. It was duty. It was a dance with the earth and its spirits. To the invaders, it was savagery. The 1860s brought a new tide. The United States, bloated from Civil War victory, turned westward with hunger. Railroads clawed across the land. Forts sprouted like weeds. Treaties were signed in English and broken in silence. The Apache were pushed onto reservations, slivers of land without water, without game, without soul. Geronimo tried diplomacy. He surrendered twice. Each time, he was lied to, corralled, and betrayed. Freedom was not a request. It was breath itself. And so he escaped. Again, 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 like smoke, like shadow, across deserts and cliffs, with warriors whose loyalty transcended reason. He eluded capture while the U.S. government spent millions, deployed thousands, and chased ghosts. He became a myth, not through exaggeration, but through the sheer absurdity of his defiance. The American press painted him as a demon. The Apache knew better. He was the last resistance, the ember that refused to die. By the 1880s, the West's terrain had changed. The buffalo were gone. The telegraph hummed like a war drum in the distance. Children were stolen from their homes and placed in boarding schools to bleach the Apache from their blood. Geronimo was older now, his hair streaked with white, his eyes still bright. In 1886, he surrendered for the final time, not because he was defeated, but because his people were starving. The army promised mercy, promised land, promised reunification. Instead, he was shipped east, imprisoned, moved from Florida to Alabama to Fort Sill, Oklahoma. He never saw his homeland again. And yet, even in captivity, the myth continued to grow. Geronimo, the prisoner, was a celebrity. He was paraded at the 1904 World's Fair, made to sit beside flags that had once marked his people's ruin. He met President Theodore Roosevelt in 1905, shaking the hand of empire with the quiet dignity of a mountain. He sold autographs. He posed for photos. But in his eyes, the deserts of Arizona still flickered. He never stopped asking to go home. In his final years, he rode in a carriage rather than on horseback. His health declined. He was old, tired, and isolated. In February of 1909, after being thrown from his horse in the cold, he lay on the ground for hours before help arrived. Pneumonia took hold. On his deathbed, he confessed that he regretted surrendering, that he should have fought to the death. He died as he lived, unbowed, not broken, only buried. They laid him to rest in the Fort Sill Apache Cemetery, far from the canyons of his youth. but his name did not die. Geronimo would be shouted by paratroopers leaping from planes, by children imitating warriors, by soldiers seeking courage. But to the Apache in history, he was more than a name. He was the last ember of a fire that once lit the whole desert. He was proof that spirit cannot be caged by borders or barbed wire. That defiance, when rooted in justice, echoes longer than any gunshot. Geronimo was not a rebel. He was not a savage. He was not a footnote in someone else's history. He was the history, the man who stood, time and again, before the weight of empires and said no. If this story moved you, if it made you think, or if it brought history to life in a way textbooks never could, let us know. Leave a comment below. We read every word. If you believe stories like this deserve to be remembered, preserved, and passed on, then like this video and share it with someone who needs to hear it. And if you haven't already, subscribe. Join us as we uncover the forgotten chapters, the unsung heroes, and the voices that still echo through time.